fullback for the Rhine Fire. The three wide receivers, Markel Castle, excellent for Munich this year. Tony Tate of the Panthers, and Anthony Mahungu, who is back fit this week after missing out the final game of the season and dressing for the semifinal after not being on the initial roster last week against Frankfurt. Did not have a catch in that game. Not sure he really saw that much action, but he is listed among the starters here today. Tight end Florian Bierbaumer of Vienna, excellent year for him. And then across the offensive line, you've got Alexander Milanovic of Vienna, and the other four players all with the Fire: Sven Breidenbach, Leander Wiegand, Nick Wiens, Joachim Christensen. As the parade of representatives from the different ELF teams comes out onto the fields. Really is a testimony to the excellent support that Jadrid Clark and Glenn Tunga have had from their respective offensive linemen this season. And four of them would be nominated for the first team, and Arnold Hulierhoek on the second All-Star team as well. A combination of fan voting and some experts helping to pick that team. On defense, Kyle Kitchens of Berlin. Brilliant edge rusher alongside Niklas Gustav of Raiders Tirol. Three linebackers, AJ Wentlands, Dawson Dales of Paris, Lucky Ogbovoen of the Raiders. Evan Jaboa, the Hamburg defensive tackle, alongside Jason Chikere, the Rhine Fire defensive player, first team All-Star. Seo Beard and Jamalcolm Liggins, the two cornerbacks, and the safeties, Luke Glenna of Barcelona and Omari Williams of the Fire, who played in the 2021 ELF Championship game for Frankfurt. Ryan Rimler, the All-Star kicker on the first team, Niels Jonkman, the punter, and the lone Milano Seaman representative, Devin Burrell, is the return specialist. Won't go through the entire second team All-Star roster, but the seven Stuttgart players, Louis Geyer and Yannick Meyer, the two wide receivers, Luca Jokiel at offensive tackle, Sassan Giovanni at linebacker, Aslan Zetterberg at defensive tackle, Mitch Fettig at cornerback, and Goran Sek at safety. Tunga, Hulierhoek, and Alejandro Fernandez, second teamers for the Rhine Fire on the All-Star team, as well as wide receiver Harlan Quofi. Fernandez not in the starting lineup today, not in the lineup at all for the Fire. The Spaniard, who was second in the league in sacks during the regular season with 11, may be an interesting absence for Stuttgart, not to have to game plan against his presence, trying to protect Riley Hennessy. As you see the young fans on the field here, really testifying to the impact that American football is having. The ELF, bit of a tough year in some respects, but you just have to look at this stadium when it's full at game time to understand exactly what an impact the league is having. Madrid already announces an expansion franchise for next season. Details of all of the 2024 season will be announced in the coming weeks. It's more excitement, potential for other expansion franchises have been rumored, but nothing confirmed. Again, looking out across this big crowd, the fans still filing in to see a game which the Rhine Fire are expected to win, and they themselves will be expecting to win. But nobody's certainly taking anything for granted. Jim Tom Sula very complimentary about Stuttgart in the pregame press conference a couple of days ago. And Jordan Newman, for his part, got bombarded with questions about the Rhine Fire, how good they are on offense, how good they are in the red zone defense. He remains upbeat and saying, we've got a ton of respect for the Fire. We're a great team too. We've got great players as well. What we need to do is come in confident. We need to play with a lot of effort and intensity. Both teams play to their potential. The Fire should win. But if the Fire have an off day, which is possible, and Stuttgart comes out swinging, we could yet see a big upset and one of the most impressive transformations from one season to the next. Stuttgart 0-12 last year could become the ELF champions in this 2023 season. Plenty of build-up still prior to this third ELF championship game. Interesting day of festivities yesterday. The awards we mentioned, the celebrity flag football game in this stadium. As you see, waiting in the tunnel, first sign of either sets of players in this game today. That is Emmanuel Hefele, the backup tight end, carrying the flag for the Stuttgart Surge. They will be wearing their road white jerseys today, not because they're on the road in the Fire Stadium as such, but because they are the lower seeded team. Lengauer on the right there, the wide receiver who also serves as the punter for the Surge. It's a long wait for them. Desperate to get out on the field and warm up again a little bit. Of course, both teams have been on this field for a pregame warm-up situation, as would always be the case. But that having been done already, teams have to settle down and then get ready to pick themselves back up. Stuttgart has the advantage in that sense of being able to get out on the field first. Robert Hager on the right, the starting offensive tackle for the Surge, number 74. Left, Goran Sak, former Francois Panther, who had 3 interceptions, 70 tackles in the regular season for Stuttgart. Also had a pickoff against the Panthers in the wild card round of the playoffs. Build-up continues, just over 20 minutes until kickoff. Fans young and old making it to the Schauinsland-Reisen-Arena today in Duisburg, known as the MSV Arena, the home to MSV Duisburg, currently in the 3rd league of German soccer. Just east of the Rhine, north of Dusseldorf, this arena. Fire had actually wanted to play their games in the Merkur-Spiel Arena in Dusseldorf originally, which was the site of the first ELF championship game, and certainly a game that will live in the memory long of everyone involved, with Frankfurt defeating Hamburg 34-32. I think that was the final score. It was a 2-point game. (32-30), beg your pardon. I thought there was something a little bit wrong about that, but it was a 62-yard field goal attempt by Hamburg's Fries Anderson at the buzzer, which fell just short. Could have given Hamburg the victory. This is the first ELF championship game not featuring the Hamburg Sea Devils here today. Hamburg having really struggled this year, finishing 4-8 after going 8-4, including the championship game loss in 2021, and then 12-2 last year, including their defeat by Vienna. see the surge players ready to surge out onto the field as the smoke show precedes their appearance before the large crowd here. And that right there, you see how few fans aren't wearing any sort of gear from NFL or ELF. As you see, out onto the field first, it is Lengauer, and the rest of the surge players right behind. What an emotional day this will be for everyone, especially those players who were part of the difficult surge teams last year and the year before. They've had a lot of turnover in players, as you can imagine, ahead of this new season. The Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns in the ELF, one of the great teams, which was led by Jordan Newman, now the surge head coach for some time. He helped bring a transfusion of fresh blood, not just from Schwäbisch Hall, but from elsewhere, making the surge the team they are here this season. There's Riley Hennessy, 240 yards per game as the quarterback during the regular season. He only played in 7 games. Had some injury difficulties earlier on. He was only sacked 4 times in those games, and that really is going to be the key for Stuttgart here today to keep him upright. Louis Geyer, an excellent season. Over 1,000 yards, including the 2 playoff games. Had a 65-yard score against Vienna last week. And also threw a passing touchdown this year. Darrell Stewart Jr., the wide receiver from Houston, Texas in the States, had 10 catches for 199 yards and 2 scores last week at Vienna. Before that, against the Panthers, 11 catches for 167 yards and 2 scores. He is on fire, as indeed is this man, Nicolas Kandar. The French running back, 18 carries for $123 last week at Vienna. Also a rushing touchdown against the Panthers in the wild card round, averaging 5.6 yards per carry for Jordan Newman. Newman himself, a protege of Chris Kaleke, the former Vienna Vikings offensive coordinator he was, defeated his mentor last week, and now has to try and defeat this team coming out onto the field. Jim Tom Sula's Rhine Fire. They have been on fire in every sense. As first the cheerleaders come out with the fire bumping all comers all season long. Arguably not the toughest schedule on paper in the league, but they did defeat Frankfurt 3 times. Munich, who had a good season, they were thumped 60-23 on the road in week 12. There's Bernie, their mascots, B-U-R-N-I-E. And here, first out of the tunnel is Yasir Raji, one of the starting offensive linemen for the Fire. There's Glenn Tunga, the star running back. And the parade of notables. This team is stacked. And that's Jadrian Clark, the quarterback upon whom so much depends, who has shouldered every burden for the Fire en route to a record-breaking season. Set records for passing yards, passing touchdowns, 129.7 quarterback rating, nearly 10 yards per passing attempt. And Clark, if the Fire are to win this game, the new most valuable player of the league is very likely to play a starring role yet again. There's the second team ELF All-Star, Harlan Quofi. It's worth noting that William Patterson is not involved here today. He had come on to replace Nathaniel Robitaille when Robitaille went out on injured reserve. Robitaille is back in the lineup today. An interesting call back from injury. You see Glenn Tunga, who, despite missing those 4 games at the start of the season, over 1,000 yards on the year, including the playoffs, 926 yards rushing in the regular season. There's Jadrian Clark. little bit off his best last week against Frankfurt, but still threw for 4 touchdowns and 236 yards. Was not sacked once by the excellent Frankfurt's defensive front seven. Anthony Mahungu, 984 yards catching all during the regular season with the 11 touchdowns. Have to see what kind of impact he can have today, given his absence at the end of the regular season and then not really involved last week. But Jim Tomsula, confident, of course, the former San Francisco 49ers head coach. He is very much revved up and ready to go himself for this ELF championship game here today. Pomp and pageantry. As onto the fields, color guard, the military presence here. Has always been a bit of a link in many people's minds between American football and military organizations. Think back to like World War II in the USA, when the Army-Navy game was the sporting event for people to watch. Heisman Trophy winners coming out of the American Army in particular, I should say. Of course, have the German national anthem prior to today's game. And the drums beat toward the opening kickoff here at the Schauinsland-Reisen-Arena. Sets of players very respectful. Crowd staccato clapping in many quarters as well. Just over 10 minutes away from the scheduled kickoff time. Referee for this game, by the way, is the Pole Wojciech Radeczak. See him out in the white cap near midfield. Big honor for him and the rest of the refereeing crew. Umpire Jan Klimes, the line judge Alexander Eriksson, side judge Gaute Tesley. You've got Sasha Richardson, Roberto Kral, the field judge, Bartolome Marciniak, the back judge. Replay official Patrick Johnson. Wonder what sort of role he will have here today. And Antoine Saudril also off the field in officiating capacity. Eyes facing front as we get ready for the national anthem. Wunderbar. Enough to give you goosebumps as we inch again closer toward the opening kickoff of ELF Championship game number 3.